Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Darati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavansha Shri Rupam Sagadatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paridana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada and Sagana Vaita Shri Vishaka Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namusate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunivari Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, welcome to this Bhagavad Gita discussion. So today we'll be discussing the chapter number 11, entitled "The Universal Form." A very interesting chapter, and one that fascinates many, and also has some very important topics, particularly in this time. This chapter establishes very clearly Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his two-armed form, through the revelation of this universal form. So we'll be discussing that here this week and next week. Will take us 2 weeks to complete chapter 11. So in chapter 11, we're going to see how Krishna will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt about his position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has said it in chapter 7, chapter 8, 9, and 10. And now we're going to see it. So let us begin reading. The first verse opens with a statement and a request that's coming by Arjuna. Arjuna said, by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. So we know Krishna spoke in the 10th chapter that to Arjuna that he is going to give him something even better than what has already been explained. And what was that something that he explained? Krishna explained about his most wonderful mystical opulences. And so Arjuna is saying, having heard about this, my illusion is now dispelled. And what was his illusion? His illusion that is now gone is that he knows Krishna as the Supreme Lord, as the source of all, the cause of all causes. Not just a friend, not just an incarnation, but he is the Supreme Lord, the source of all, even the source of Mahavishnu and this universal form. So he has understood who is the ultimate Supreme Person, the Purushottama, that is Krishna. So Arjuna has now this gift of knowledge. He declared it in several very nice verses in the 10th chapter, where he clearly defined who is the great Supreme Person, the ultimate person. So now Arjuna, being very kind, is wanting others to have it. When we have some great knowledge, someone who is kind and compassionate wants to share it. So thus in this chapter, Arjuna is going to request Krishna to show this universal form, primarily for the benefit of others. So he continues in verse 2 by saying, O lotus-eyed one, I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity, and you have realized your inexhaustible glories. Excuse me. So Arjuna has realized these inexhaustible, meaning you cannot get to the bottom of them, glories of the Supreme Lord that were explained in chapter 10. And we know, again from the 7th verse of the 10th chapter, that having faith in these mystical opulences are essential to be able to take to the process of pure devotional service. So Arjuna has achieved a very important position where he can understand these opulences, but then have faith in them, which will then enable one to perform pure devotional service. So Arjuna has achieved this position. And so now he's going to speak in the 3rd verse a request. O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you are here before me in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. So Arjuna makes a request now. He wants to see that form by which he has entered into the cosmic manifestation. So there's 3 reasons that Arjuna is making this request. So the first of those reasons is to give others the same conviction that he has about who is Krishna. He knows Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of God, and he refers here as Purushottama, right? The supreme form, best of all personalities, right? This he understood, but he wants others to have the same conviction, because with this conviction, one may become liberated and saved from the difficulties of material life and enter into the realm of pure devotional service. So to convince those in the future who may confuse who is Krishna, some may consider Krishna just to be some ordinarily powerful person. No, he wanted everyone to have the same conviction he has, and so he says, "O greatest of all personalities." That's how he opens the verse, establishing he has conviction. Arjuna does not need to see the universal form to convince, but to give this conviction to others, he is giving. Now we know why who would be confused? Well, Krishna has already said, right, Mamuda, that these people think that Krishna says, they deride me when I appear in my human form. So there's a source of confusion, not understanding. Is Krishna just some powerful personality? Not knowing him to be the Supreme. So to establish that firmly within the heart of all of us, he is asking to see this. So the first reason is to establish the same conviction that Arjuna has. The second reason that Arjuna is asking is Arjuna has heard about all these opulences and how Krishna is pervading the entire universe by just a spark of his splendor. End of chapter 10. But now, out of curiosity, he wants to see it. He has heard about it. To see exactly how has Krishna entered the entire universe and pervading throughout it. How is he operating it, yet remaining aloof from it? He said all of this in the last chapter. He said with the smallest part, a spark of his splendor, he pervades the entire universe. So Arjuna is curious, how is that possible? How does that happen? So, as we remember back to the end of the 10th chapter, Krishna said that he enters the cosmic creation and creates. So Arjuna wants to see that, to satisfy his curiosity. And the third reason that Arjuna is asking, as Srila Prabhupada establishes in this purport and in the future purport, to create a criteria for which one can claim themselves to be God. So many people want to claim themselves to be God. So if you're God, show your universal form. And then when we come to hear how extraordinary this universal form is, we'll begin to understand how it will immediately rule out any future imposter who may claim themselves to be God. Today we see so many, bogus personalities claiming this foolish statement. Okay, if you're God, show your universal form. So Arjuna is creating a criteria for which we can make sure we'll not be bewildered or taken on the wrong path. So for that reason, Arjuna is asked. So 3 reasons: to establish the conviction that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the hearts of all of us, to see, out of curiosity, how Krishna is manifested and pervading this entire universe, and to create this criteria to establish who is the Supreme Lord. Okay? Now verse 4. If you think that I am able to behold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic powers, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self. So Arjuna is making an important point here. He clearly understands that his ability to see is not based on his own ability, but only by Krishna's inconceivable power may it be revealed to him. Arjuna calls Krishna Yogeshwara, the master of the mystic powers, meaning Krishna can make him see something infinite, even though he is very finite. That can only happen by the mystical powers of Krishna. And we're going to see how mystical it is here shortly. So Arjuna's mood here is very important. He does not mandate or give an order, but he approaches in the mood of surrender. If you think that I am able to behold, he asks. Just like Prabhupada taught us, that when we offer our prayers to the Lord, we don't ask the Lord, Lord, please give me this. We ask, Lord, if you so desire, then allow this to happen. This is the mood of offering prayer. So Arjuna is showing this great mood. If you think I'm able to, then please. But it is not a mandate. The devotee knows now that without the power of Krishna, nothing can happen. He knows he's an infinitesimal tiny spark of the Supreme. And he cannot perceive the Lord on his own merit, but only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord can the finite know and see the infinite. Only if the infinite reveals. Prabhupada says that in the purport, that only if the infinite reveals himself can someone finite like the jiva understand. So Arjuna has not confused that this is something he can do by his own ability. It is only by the mercy of Krishna. Okay? So, in the 5th verse, Krishna speaks now. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of varied, divine, and multicolored forms. So, an important point Prabhupada makes in this purport, the connection between this Vishwarupa, this universal form, and Krishna. So the important point we must remember is the universal form is a temporary manifestation. It manifests an existence, it manifests during the existence of the universe. As soon as the universe is destroyed, after 100 years of Brahma, the universal form also disappears. So this is a temporary form. Krishna's form is eternal and always there. When his pastimes wrap up here, he performs his pastimes somewhere else. And he is also, at the same time, always situated in Goloka Vrindavan. So that is the eternal form. This universal form is a temporary manifestation. So that is very important. And thus, it makes the Vishwarupa a subordinate feature of Krishna. It is a subordinate feature, which we're going to see in a couple of verses. But we must remember that. Sometimes when we see something very grand or large, we say, oh, that must be the superior. No. This universal form is the subordinate feature of Krishna. And we'll see that again very clearly here in a couple of verses. And again, Prabhupada comments in the purport, one must have the power to see it. Okay? Krishna continues, O best of the Bharatas, see here the different manifestations of the Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, Ashvini Kumars, and all the other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen before or heard of before. So never is seen before by anyone. Now we know, and Prabhupada comments, that when Duryodhana saw the universal form, when he thought himself to be, some strong person who could bind Krishna, he saw a partial feature, not all of it. So that is why Krishna here is saying this has never been seen before, because Krishna is going to reveal the full aspect of the universal form. Mother Yashoda also saw a portion of the universal form in his when he opened his mouth after eating some mud, and Mother Yashoda peered inside. Right? So that was also a partial demonstration. And when Mother Yashoda sees the whole universe in the mouth of Krishna, we can understand then why she kept running out of ropes when she was trying to bind the belly of Krishna. How much rope you need to bind the universe? Not enough even if you have 900,000 cows to tend to. You'll not have enough rope. And that's why she was only able to bind them, as we know, by her pure love. And we'll get to celebrate this wonderful pastime in a few weeks, at the beginning of Damodar month. So this has not been seen before, what Krishna will now reveal. O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you desire to see and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything moving and non-moving is here completely in one place. So now we can see the inconceivable. How you can be in one place and see the entire universe. This word ekashtam is key. The whole universe from one spot. It's impossible to imagine. If you are seated in one room of your house, you cannot even see what's happening in the next room, let alone in the neighbor's house, let alone in the next city, the next state, the next country, or even the next planet, or millions of planets, or even the next universe, right? You cannot see. But Krishna is going to, by his inconceivable potency, with his divine vision, we see how powerful the potency is. Arjuna, seated from the chariot, is going to be able to see the whole universe. That is only possible by the extraordinary power of Krishna. Just as Mother Yashoda, right? How she could see the whole universe within the space of a small boy's mouth. We think, oh no, she just saw like an illustration. No, it wasn't an illustration. It was the entire universe. She could see herself within the mouth of her son. So this leads us to the inconceivable potencies. If we don't believe in these potencies, we think, oh, she just saw a picture. No. Actually, the universe was within the mouth of Krishna. So this is the extraordinary potency of Krishna. Right? Krishna's potencies in creating these universes is extraordinary. To design and build one skyscraper, one building, you need engineering firms, you need architecture firms, permits, then you need to collect all the raw materials from many, many suppliers, then you need contractors and thousands of people for such a long time to build. You need inspectors and zoning officials and all just to make one single building. So much is required. But Krishna is creating so many universes. How many buildings are on one planet? But one planet is only one of the millions of planets within the universe. And one universe is one of unlimited number of universes. So we get to see just the scope of Krishna's ability. So if he can be creating all of these universes by one of his expansions, who is simply lying on Ananta Shesh, then giving the potency to see the whole universe from one spot is not so unimaginable. But again, when we compare it to our own abilities, we think, oh, this is impossible. But Krishna is going to show Arjuna everything from one spot. Not only what is happening, but also the future. Past, present, and future. All from one spot. Inconceivable and very mystical. Krishna continues, but you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore I shall give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulences. So again, to see the Vishwarupa, the universal form, we need specific eyes given by Krishna. Special vision. This divyam chakshusha. Our material senses will not be able to perceive this. So, very important point, and Prabhupada alludes to in the purport in our Acharya's comment, that this divine vision is not a purification of Arjuna, an advancement of Arjuna. Arjuna has already achieved the topmost position, having understood Krishna to be the Supreme Lord and engaging in pure, unalloyed devotional service. So this vision is not something further, some further purification. Actually, it's simply a change of vision. Prabhupada says in the purport as such that it is not a change of his mind, a purification of the mind. No, it is just a change of vision. So this is not some advancement Arjuna is undergoing, actually, to see this universal form. And Prabhupada comments that the devotional eyes, they only see the sweetness of Krishna. So in order to see this materially opulence, one needs this type of vision. Because the devotee's vision is only seeing the sweet, loving features of the Lord. And as we'll see, there are some, things that are here are not so pleasant. So Prabhupada talks about why devotees are not so interested in seeing the universal form. Devotees are attracted to the loving features of the Lord, not by what Prabhupada says, the godless display of opulences. So devotees don't care so much for seeing the universal form. They want to see and enjoy with the two-armed form, in which he displays so many loving relationships and features with his devotees. There is so much love that they don't even know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. They're blinded by their love for Krishna. They just love him because he's Krishna. They don't care to see his opulences. When the residents of Vrindavan and the gopis saw Krishna at Kurukshetra, dressed even there in royal garments coming from Dwarka, they were not so pleased. They were enjoying seeing Krishna in simple dhoti, turban, peacock feather, as a cowherd boy. That is their bliss. So this intimate relationship they have with Krishna is enacted, empowered by Yogamaya, who covers their understanding of these opulences. So the devotee is not so interested in seeing this. Sometimes we have this fascination to see it, but the pure devotee is fascinated by the loving charm of Krishna as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. That is what is fascinating to the pure devotee. So now we're going to hear from Sanjaya. Sanjaya said, "O king, having spoken thus, the Supreme Lord of all mystic power, the personality of Godhead, displayed his universal form to Arjuna." So Sanjaya now is going to narrate what he is seeing for the next 22 verses, up to verse 31. So it also, we know, Sanjaya has been bestowed the ability to see also. Right? So Sanjaya refers to Krishna here as Hari. So, the meaning of Hari is very important. Hari has few different angles. One is, Hari is referring to the thief who steals away the sins of his devotee so that they may awaken pure love of Krishna. So that is why we call Krishna Hari. Hari Bol. Speak of Hari. One who steals away the sins so that one can come to the point of pure devotional service and pure love. Also, he who removes or steals the inauspiciousness and thus steals the heart of his devotees. And also, one who removes all suffering. So this is the meaning of Hari, and that is how Sanjaya has addressed Krishna. So now we'll come to Arjuna's wonder. He's going to have a couple of mood shifts through this experience. So we'll see the beginning, this wonder that Arjuna will experience. So 10 and 11. Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments, and many divine scents were smeared over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, all-pervading. So we can see this is a personal form. Even the universal form is personal. We see ornaments, right? We see celebrated with garments. You can't put garments or clothes on something impersonal, or garlands. So we see, unlimited mouths and eyes. Though a very unique personal form, it is a personal form. Right? So it indicates that Vishwarupa is a person. Right? You can't offer a helmet or a necklace to someone who is formless. Now, where Sanjaya says, trying to, he's relaying again to Dhritarashtra, right? So he has to try to make a parallel. How he can explain something like the universal form. How he would explain it. It's virtually impossible. So he tries. If hundreds of thousands of suns were to rise at once in the sky, their radiance might resemble the effulgence of the Supreme Person in that universal form. So trying to explain the impossible, right? He's trying to explain the brightness, the radiance of the universal form. And so some material frame of reference is given here. Like if hundreds of thousands of suns were to rise at once, we know how bright a single sun is in the sky. Multiply that many, many times, we might be able to see the radiance of this universal form. So these material frame of references, again, they are just relative. Like we say, an ocean of mercy. The ocean is meant to indicate unlimited, because the ocean, like from our perspective, is virtually unlimited. But factually, it is limited, actually, right? It has a certain, but from our perspective, it's unlimited. So it's meant to try to get us to be able to understand, but they are not exacting. So even hundreds of thousands of suns is not exactly matching the radiance of the universal form. Sanjay says it might, meaning it is just a way for us to try to appreciate how radiant this universal form is. You can imagine what kind of sunglasses you would need. Fortunately, Arjuna had very transcendental sunglasses. 13. At that time, Arjuna could see in this universal form of the Lord the unlimited expansions of the universe is situated in one place, although divided into many, many thousands. So, this word one place, tatra, is very important. Krishna is sitting on the chariot and Arjuna is on the chariot. And they're both seeing the universal form. So it's very important that indicates that the universal form is a separate manifestation. It is not that the universal form, comes down into the two-armed form of Krishna. They are existing separately. So Krishna is there, and he is showing the universal form. So don't confuse that the universal form is some supreme source, and from that comes Krishna. No. It is the other way around. Again, the universal form is existing temporarily, where Krishna is existing eternally. Now, importantly, others on the battlefield could not see this. They could not understand what was happening in this dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. Right? Sanjaya could see it by the grace of Krishna and the grace of his spiritual master. But the other participants, they could not see. Nobody else was given this vision. So they were just seeing Krishna and Arjuna speaking. They were not seeing this brilliant form in the sky. And again, what is so mystical here is to be able to see this expansions of the universe from one spot. And we'll get some more detailed descriptions of that now. Then, bewildered and astonished, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bowed his head to offer obeisances, and with folded hands began to pray to the Supreme Lord. So we see Arjuna's reaction here. This wonder. Right? He has amazing wonder in his reaction. And he's bewildered, hair standing on hand, astonished. So his mood is changed. When one sees the grandness of Krishna, they come into awe and reverence. And you see Arjuna is bowing down to him, which is unique because Arjuna has a friendship rasa with Krishna. Right? Friends don't bow down to each other. They have a very intimate relationship with each other. They share foodstuffs, jokes, pastimes, walking arm in arm. Arjuna is going to say that we've even lied down in the same bed, taken rest, very casual. But here now, Prabhupada is commenting that the mood of friendship is overwhelmed by wonder, this Vishmaya Avishtaha. It is being overwhelmed. And we're going to see later how Arjuna now regrets his very friendly, casual relationship with Krishna, even though actually that is the highest relationship. This is the mood of pure devotees, immersed in so much love that they don't see even the Lord as a supreme. And they're simply attracted by his wonderful personality. They don't say, oh, because you are God, let me be your friend. That is not their mood. It is truly unmotivated. They want to be the friend of Krishna just because Krishna is so sweet. So this mood of Arjuna is of wonder, being bewildered. So we're going to see now more manifestations of that. But this is temporarily overcoming his mood of friendship. Arjuna said, my dear Lord Krishna, I see assembled in your body all the demigods and various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva and all the sages and divine serpents. So key point here. Arjuna could see everything in the universe from the seat of his chariot. He could see from the Garbha ocean, Ananta Shesh, and Garbha Dakshay Vishnu, the lotus stem, all the way up to the top of the universe, Lord Brahma. From top to bottom, he could see the entire universe seated in his chariot. So we have a very vivid explanation of what Arjuna could see when we say he could see the whole universe. Literally, he could see everything. Oh, we'll continue. O Lord of the universe, O universal form, I see in your body many, many arms, bellies, mouths, eyes, expanded everywhere, without limit. I see in you no end, no middle, and no beginning. So we see many, many different arms and limbs of the body. Your form is difficult to see because of its glaring effulgence, spreading on all sides like blazing fire, or the immeasurable radiance of the sun. Yet I see this glowing form everywhere, adorned with various crowns, clubs, and discs. It's so bright, it's difficult to see, right? The glaring sun is very difficult to see. Imagine hundreds of thousands of how, hard. Right? That's why we see in the Shri Upanishad, right, that begging to remove the effulgence so that one can see Krishna's charming face and loving features. 18. You are the supreme primal objective. You are the ultimate resting place of all this universe. You are inexhaustible. You are the oldest. You are the maintainer of the eternal religion, the personality of Godhead. This is my opinion. So more, wonderful features. So now we're going to see a shift in Arjuna's mood. Okay? You are without origin, middle, or end. Your glory is unlimited. You have numberless arms, and the sun and moon are your eyes. I see you with blazing fire coming from your mouth, burning this entire universe by your own radiance. So here now, Arjuna is seeing a feature that in other Vishwarupas was not seen. So in the feature of that Duryodhana saw, or Mother Yashoda saw, they did not see this blazing fire. This is the Kala Rupa. Krishna's form is time, the destructive energy that we're going to hear about a little bit later. This form of time, this will be continuing until verse 30. So very amazing descriptions by Arjuna. And Prabhupada comments that this repetition, number of arms and bellies, and this repetition is not a mistake, but it's a sign of this bewilderment or ecstasy or wonder. Sometimes when we're excited, did you see this? There is a repetition. So this repetition is an indication of the extraordinary features that Arjuna is seeing. It is not a flaw. It just tells us how great Krishna is. Right? So, we'll continue. what Arjuna is seeing. Again, this unique feature of this blazing fire. Although you are one, you are spread throughout the sky and the planets and all space between. O Great One, seeing this wondrous and terrible form, all the planetary systems are perturbed. So clearly we see here now, Arjuna was not the only one seeing this form. Sanjaya was seeing it, as we know, but now even other demigods are seeing this, because we see they are disturbed. Those on the battlefield were not disturbed because they didn't see it. But whoever saw it, they were also overcome, taken by this fear. He says, this ugram rupam, this terrible form. Right? Why terrible? Because Arjuna is seeing this fire coming from the mouth of Krishna. And this fire is destroying so many things. All the hosts of demigods are surrendering before you and are entering into you. Some of them, very much afraid, are offering prayers with folded hands. Hosts of great sages and perfected beings crying, all peace, are praying to you by singing the Vedic hymns. So the demigods are praying in fear. The sages are praying, let there be peace. All this Arjuna is seeing. All the various manifestations of Lord Shiva, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Sadhyas, the Vishwadevas, the two Ashvis, the Maruts, the forefathers, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Asuras, and the perfected demigods are beholding you in wonder. Even the Rudras are astonished in wonder. They're astonished to this subordinate feature of Krishna. So then, what about the supreme form of the Lord? Then we have question, who is supreme? You know, of course Krishna is a supreme personality. Even the Lord Shiva is astonished in wonder by this great manifestation of one of the subordinate features of Krishna. 23 to 25. Now we're going to see this fear. O mighty armed one, all the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form with its many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, and bellies, and your many terrible teeth. As they are disturbed, so am I. So Arjuna now is become disturbed. He was being influenced by the fear of the demigods. He has also become shaken. This mood of bhaya, fear, is there. You know, if we see someone running in fear, we also become fearful, even if we don't know why they're running. If someone is running, screaming, we start, even though we may not even know what they are running from. Right? So like that, Arjuna, seeing the demigods in fear, he has also become disturbed by this mood. So his mood has gone from wonder to that of fear. O all-pervading Vishnu, seeing you with many radiant colors touching the sky, your gaping mouth and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind. So continued explanation of his mood. Now, Arjuna makes a very nice point here. All-pervading. So we can imagine how big this universal form is. It occupied the total sky. So how big something would have to be to occupy the sky? If you walk outside right now, and you are in a clear field and you look up, the sky is gigantic. And this universal form, it occupied the entire space of the sky. The backdrop was so large. You know, a big plane is flying in the sky and it occupies just a tiny portion of the sky. So by what Arjuna is seeing, everywhere he looked, he was seeing some aspect of the universal form. So we get a sense of the gigantic vision, the gigantic nature of what Arjuna was seeing. When he says, "Oh, all-pervading," touching in the sky, every aspect of the sky was filled with this vision. It's a very, very large. 25. O Lord of lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance, seeing thus your blazing, death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions I am bewildered. So you can see a very heightened sense of fear. In a prior verse, I have lost my equilibrium and steadiness. And now he's saying, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance seeing this. So Arjuna's mood has really been shaken with seeing all these awful teeth and death-like faces. So now in the next verses, we're going to see what is it that Arjuna was actually seeing. Because he was seeing the future, and it is not such a rosy future that he was seeing. 26 and 27. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, and Bhishma, Drona, and Karna, and our chief soldiers also are rushing into your fearful mouths, and some of them trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. Now we can see why Arjuna became so shaken. Imagine the horror of seeing loved ones, even some of his own soldiers, being smashed by the teeth, being killed. It would be very horrific, right? So this was his great anxiety to fight in the first place, to see his elders, his guru, his family members, loved ones, being destroyed in battle. And now he is seeing their destruction, heads smashed between the teeth of the universal form. And so it is very fearful, not such a pleasant thing. Arjuna also, by seeing the future, knows he will survive this battle. So his fear was not out of his own destruction, but out of the great mood of love and compassion he has for others. Another great sign of his character. So now we'll see two different types of persons who are flowing into the mouth of Krishna in this universal form, who are dying. 28 to 29, two different forms. As the many waves of rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter blazing into your mouths. And then the next verse we'll read and then discuss both of them. I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. So in 28, rivers, they are carried by a natural force to flow into the ocean. They flow without intentional effort. And this is describing those like Bhishma and Drona and others who, by the act of dharma, their duty to fight, being maintained by Duryodhana, chose to fight on the side of the Kauravas based on their circumstance. So they were not overly intentional in their efforts, just like the rivers. So, but they did flow ultimately to their destruction. So, this is one set of personalities who are going to die in the battle. Those who were by the circumstances, unintentional effort. And the circumstances, we know that Bhishma and Drona, they were being maintained by the Kauravas, and thus, by that circumstance, they are going to lead to their death. But in 29, we see the moths. The example of the moths. A moth intentionally flies into the fire, being attracted by the light. So this describes those who voluntarily, by their own choices, enter into death, attached to false sense gratification, material enjoyment. One runs towards their destruction, not being able to see the dangers of their attraction, uncontrolled. So this is like the moth attracted to fire that runs into the mind. That would be Duryodhana. Okay? So two different types of persons Arjuna is describing here. 30. O Vishnu, I see you're devouring all people from all sides with your flaming mouths, covering all the universes with your effulgence. You are manifest with terrible, scorching rays. So this is very graphic. You can see blood gushing out from the chewing of the warriors, and it's a very grotesque situation that Arjuna has seen. So now Arjuna in 31 will speak the final verse of this section. O Lord of Lords, so fierce a form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances to you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. So Arjuna was completely overwhelmed. He's already established who Krishna is. But now he's become completely bewildered, overwhelmed. And so he begs Krishna, please explain to me, what is this? How do I make sense of all of this? And so now, starting from the next verse, we'll begin next week, Krishna will begin to explain all that he is seeing and why he is seeing this. So this is the first part of this chapter of the universal form. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki. Any comments or discussion, questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you for explaining the wonderful universal form.
Hare Krishna.
I just had one, it's not a question Prabhuji, so
Yeah.
what did Sanjaya do that he got to see the universal form?
Simply the will of Krishna. So that Dhritarashtra would have great understanding of what is happening. Because remember, Sanjaya is narrating what is happening on the battlefield. And so by the will of Krishna, he wanted Dhritarashtra to be able to perceive what is happening. Because nobody else could. Duryodhana could not see. Bhishma could not see. Others could not see. So that is why.
Fantastic Prabhuji. Thank you Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
So just to what Prabhu asked before the previous question, that from the book when I read, it was mentioned that Vyasadeva want to use the power of seeing what is happening in the war to Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra doesn't want to see through his eyes of their son's died, and thus he requested Vyasadeva to give the power to Sanjaya so that he can explain what's happening to him, that not they can't see through the eyes. I think that's what, from my limited knowledge, that I hear from this, I don't know whether it's true, but I hear this from someone.
Yeah, because you see Prabhupada comments, by the grace of Vyasa, Sanjaya was able to see.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so that's...
Is it correct, because that's what I hear from, because I think somewhere I had this question.
Yeah.
I was hearing this thing from.
Yeah, I don't know the exact detail of that, but remember, Dhritarashtra could not see any of the battle. But for the exact purport, I'm not so familiar with that. But it is by the grace of Vyasa, because Prabhupada comments that in the purport when Sanjaya first begins to speak. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. So, can I? Hare Krishna, Dhanwad.
Prabhu, I read this. I actually heard it, but I am not clear about how did Duryodhana got to see the dorsal form.
Oh.
What was the...
Yeah, when Krishna went to Duryodhana's palace, he was as the messenger, trying to resolve this conflict. Duryodhan became very proud and thinking that, I'll bind Krishna and throw him into prison. He has come here. Doesn't he know who I am? And so Krishna became very, upset. And so he began to show Duryodhan a portion of his universal form, thinking, don't be so foolish. But then even when Duryodhan saw that portion of he still did not surrender. So Krishna had shown a portion of his in that court that they were, in the ceiling of the court room, or you can say the royal court. He showed again a portion of it, but he did not show all of it, including this Kala Rupa aspect, this blazing fire coming from the mouth, the part that Arjuna saw. He saw more of, we can understand the beginning parts of what Arjuna was seeing, the royal garments, the ornaments, the heads, but did not see the very fierce form. So that is the context in which Duryodhan saw a portion of the universal form. Yeah, because Duryodhan thought he could bind Krishna and throw him into prison, so he was trying to show him, don't be so foolish. I am the Supreme Lord. And so he manifests this. But Duryodhan was so blinded by his ignorance, he still did not surrender. Because again,
Duryodhan just left after that, just by seeing that and he just become silent. What happened exactly? It's little curious to understand.
he continued to try to bind Krishna. He did not surrender. He did not become silent. That was the foolish condition of Duryodhan. And it's the foolish condition of the materialist. Right? We are slapped over and over and over again, thwarted in our efforts to enjoy, and yet we still don't surrender to the Supreme Lord. So Duryodhan's activities, they may seem foolish, but we do it in similar ways. So that was the context. And ultimately, of course...
One more question is that when Arjuna saw the universal form, it was so fearful. Right? But in general, the universal form, as it is, if we think as per Bhagavatam explanation, it is all as it is like nature and the people and all those things. Basically mountains and the rivers or everything, basically the creation. So why did Krishna show the fearful way side of the universal form? There is a very nice calm universal form. People, when the yogis meditate on that form.
No, remember, Krishna showed the entirety of the universal form. So Arjuna's initial mood was not fear. His initial mood was wonder. Wow, look at all these heads. Look at all the beautiful garments. Look at the garlands. Look at the ornaments. Right? That's the verse he said. So that's one portion of it. But there's also the Kala Rupa portion of Vishwarupa, which is the destructive aspect. That's also there. So it is not that he was showing one over the other. He was showing the totality. So if you think, like if you're looking in the sky, right? You cannot observe everything at once. So you're looking at parts and you're going across and seeing this and this and this. So Arjuna was observing initially some of the very beautiful aspects of the universal form. The very, pleasurable. And it led to his astonishment and wonder, not fear. But as he progressed in what he was saying and seeing other aspects, he then began to see also this other feature. So that is the totality of the universal form. So everything is there. Because remember, everything resides within that universal form. So it is not that Krishna was emphasizing one over the other. He was showing Arjuna everything. And a part of that universal form is this very, fearful piece, because it is the time feature of Krishna. Krishna is going to say, time I am, right? This all-devouring force. So that is the aspect, and that's why we see the mood shift from wonder to fear. Both were present. That's okay? Okay. Any other? Yes, bro.
So, after seeing Krishna's universal form, did Arjuna remember those, or is kind of taken away from his mind?
Stay tuned till next week. We're going to see Arjuna's prayers, and what he prays to see, and then his conclusion. So I'll leave you in suspense. Hare Krishna.
One more follow-up on that, like, how much, how much faith someone should have to accept all these things that Krishna is saying and doing this and everything else? How could that evolve and happen?
How can it happen? Or I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. Can you say the question?
How can it happen that even if I say someone, hey, this is what is written in our scriptures, that he is the universal form of having all these things, because we cannot visualize, we could not see it from a material mind.
Yeah.
Right?
You told them the story of Dr. Frog.
Think about this and what you said, where we feel happy in seeing the two forms of Krishna, then just go with it. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, again, these are all the mystic opulences of Krishna. And unless one has faith in them, one will not serve Krishna in pure devotional service. And that is why Krishna, in the 7th verse of the 10th chapter, opened it. That one must have faith in these opulences in order to render pure devotional service. Because otherwise, we'll think, Krishna, this is just, some nice person, not powerful. Pure bhakti will not come until one has absolute conviction here. And absolute conviction should be there because Krishna speaks only the absolute truth. There is no exaggeration. There is no untruth in everything. He's absolute. It's true in all circumstances. So now it is up to us to decide. And by the practice of devotional service, our faith in these statements will increase. But it is a fact. Just like my faith in gravity increases the more I experience it. I may not want to believe it exists, but the more I experience it, my faith, I have no choice but to build. So similarly, the more I experience the supreme position of the Lord, the more my faith will build. But without faith, yes, one will go in a different direction based on their desires, based on their own plans. And that everyone has the free will to do so. So, this idea of how it can be true, that's the Dr. Frog mentality that Prabhupada always used to explain. When we try to understand Krishna by our own experiences, we'll always be bewildered. Just as the frog in the well, he could not understand the vastness of the ocean because he had only seen the water in his well. So when Friend Frog came to see Dr. Frog and said, I've seen the ocean, and it is many, many, many millions of times bigger than your well, Dr. Frog says it's impossible. Because Dr. Frog has only seen his well. He could not perceive something beyond his own frame of reference. And thus he became frustrated in his attempts. So similarly, when we try to perceive Krishna through our own experiences, we'll be lost. Because we're seeing something so small compared to the total. So we have to avoid Dr. Frog mentality. Don't try to understand Krishna through our own experiences. You'll never be able to. You must understand Krishna through Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. That is the only way. It's okay? Yeah. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, do you have time for another question?
Yes, of course. Yes, Dandavats.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. That's a very nice class, Prabhu. This part in the beginning, at least, and then the 11.8 gets in the first part. So, there, you were explaining about why the devotees are not interested in the universal form so much of the Krishna. So basically, it's because they want to just see the sweetness and then could you just elaborate on that part? I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
get it clear. Great.
Yeah. So the loving relationships that Krishna has with his devotees are so wonderful and overpowering and amazing and complete that the devotee doesn't want to see any other feature of the Lord. See, sometimes we want to see this great display of power and strength, and why? To convince us that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. I need to see that. Then I might be convinced. But the pure devotee is already convinced he is the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada says they're not interested in seeing this godless display of opulences. Well, how do they want to see Krishna? As a charming young boy strolling through the forest, enjoying in the rivers and mountains and caves with his cowherd boys, stealing butter from all the neighboring houses, performing all of his very sweet and loving pastimes. That is what is of interest. The pure devotee, they don't need to see these wonderful opulences to inspire their love. They are already convinced. And they are so much more fulfilling and satisfying. So there's no curiosity. It is not that the devotee, dismisses the universal form or denies it. It's a feature of the Lord, but my heart is in Krishna's loving relationships with his devotees. There's no loving relationship in the universal form. It is a administrative function, if you will. It is performing some activities. But you can't have a relationship with something so gigantic. It's like, where do you start? As soon as you start talking to one of the mouths, you have millions of other mouths. Like, you can't do it. Right? So the devotee, the pure devotee, is simply pleased in the relationship with Krishna. And you'll see Arjuna is going to come to that same point. Remove all this. I don't want to see this anymore. Just let me see your original form. Because that's what's pleasing. That's what gives pure love. But again, to satisfy one's curiosity, how Krishna can pervade the entire universe, how is that so? This form is there. But ultimately, the jiva, the spirit soul, is seeking love. And love exists in Krishna's original form. So that is where the devotees are interested. Again, so their attention is there. And they don't need to see this to convince themselves. So that is what's explained in, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport to chapter 8.
Thank you, Prabhuji. You explained it so beautifully. Couldn't have been better. Then Hari, you talked about the different meanings one was stealing away the sin, one was stealing away the heart, correct?
Yeah, stealing away the sin so one can come to pure love, stealing away the heart, and stealing away the sufferings. Those are the three.
Okay. And then you talked about the one more part was the river one, like just before the mosque. You talked about the river part, that I didn't get.
Yeah.
River flowing in that part.
Yeah, so there were two types of personalities flowing into the mouth of this Vishwarup. And, you know, a river flows into the ocean naturally, without necessarily intent. So that is being described like, you know, Bhishmadev and Drona. They are being, you know, also destroyed in this battle by the, you know, not necessarily the overtly intent to fight with Krishna. They did not, you know, I want to fight with Krishna. They were, you know, on the side of Duryodhana by their circumstance of being, you know, maintained under his protection. So then they were fighting there. But they did not have a desire to fight directly with Krishna. So that is like the rivers. The rivers don't desire to flow into the ocean. They just do. So similarly, by circumstance, Bhishma Dev, for example, is being, you know, taken to this point. Whereas the moth, by its own desire, is attracted to the fire. It runs into the fire. It flies into the fire intentionally and meets destruction. So that analogy is being used to describe Duryodhana, who is so attached to his material sense gratification and his false ego that he overtly chose to engage in this fight and meet his destruction. So that describes a moth. So those are the two analogies. Both meet destruction, but in different ways. So Arjuna is using that to describe the different positions of the persons who are meeting their destruction. That's the rivers and the moths.
So basically, like moths can be also described as ones who are engaging in the material world and the sense gratification, running towards
All what you were doing, we're simply booking our future suffering and next body. That's all we're doing. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Dandavats. Anything else? Okay. Well, if nothing else, then next week we'll continue discussing chapter 11. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.